this right here is the stair alcove, I guess is the word. And what we've got is a set of steps that's gonna come up to a landing, and then you're gonna be able to turn on that landing. It's gonna be nice and wide. Customer wanted a nice set of big steps. I agree, when you're moving furniture up and down steps, especially when you have one like this that's gonna have a 180-degree turn on the steps, you wanna consider that and leave yourself a lot of room. This customer's pretty lucky because they got the huge open 2-story loft area over here that's above the kitchen. So if you really had to get something big upstairs, you could do it that way. But this is gonna be a nice set of stairs. So what I gotta do is find my midpoint so I can balance the number of stairs that are going both up and down from this landing. Luckily, I've kind of already done that, so I know that I'm gonna have to run my stair riser in the neighborhood of 7.5 inches, which is still under my maximum height of 7 3/4, but I like to go 7 to 7 1/4 typically. It just wasn't gonna work in this space because originally this was only gonna be an 8-foot ceiling, plenty of room to do a set of steps going up to an 8-foot floor. But now that we moved it up to 9 feet, we're gonna have to just spread those steps, riser height just a little bit so that we can make it work in the same amount of space. I'm gonna get a laser set up. I'm gonna find where my landing height is. I'm gonna get that framed in first. Then we'll come in and we'll build each set of steps, get them hooked up. Probably won't all get done today because it's already actually the end of the day. I'm just spending the time trying to get it all figured out. If you see my clothes, they change mid video here. That's what's going on. It's the end of the day today almost. Got my mark here that says where 5 1/4 is, which is the halfway point. What I need to do is lower this by 3/4. So what I've got there is a nice laser line going around this entire stair alcove. And now I'm gonna do is go ahead and just take my square and I'm just gonna hit these marks. That way if I move my laser, I know where this framing should be back here on every stud. So now what I can do is I'm gonna figure out where this landing comes out to, which I'll need to do the math on the run of each step so I know where, when I come up, half of this step is going, or half of this staircase will die, where that point is. I've got 8 steps up and then another 8 up to the upstairs. So that thing is really annoying back there. All right, so where I'm gonna start with this is a 4-foot landing. And then I'm gonna check my opening here, into my opening just to see what I'm at. 6 foot 3.5 inches. So that's what I thought I was. I thought that this was a 10-foot alcove. So what I'm gonna do is just double check on my phone with the construction calculator app. So I've got 8 steps. I gotta go up 8 rises into this landing, which means I'm only gonna have 7 steps, because when you think about it, the 8th tread is actually going to be the landing. So, and the 8th tread on my second step that goes up to the upstairs is the second floor. So I've really only got 7 steps, or 7 treads that I need to worry about. So I'm gonna divide 6 foot 3.5. Actually, I'm not gonna go the full 3.5. I'm gonna stay off of that corner. 10.5, perfect. So what I'm gonna do is use I-joists for this landing, and I got a scrap piece of LP Legacy subfloor. So what I'm doing is just using this as a template, really. Oh, actually we don't need the subfloor because remember we already marked this down. I'm just gonna set this I-joist at my marks. Make some marks on the underside. So I'm just gonna tack this up by running a screw all the way through. And then what I'll do is I can frame underneath of this down to the concrete. Obviously I'll need to put some seal tape on the bottom of those studs. This is gonna give me a great level place to install my I-joists that are gonna go right on top of this. Greg, what's the over-under on when this YouTube video airs that we'll have hit 1 million subscribers?
What are you at right now?
943. I think I'll be about a couple weeks away. So what that means, YouTube, is that the big giveaway is coming soon. If you guys remember back at the 80 by 120, the big farm shop. We talked about this, and we're gonna make this happen. So I still got a lot of work to do, but I figure I got about a month or two to go. I'm hoping if I can continue to just stay the course, Greg and I are gonna take a road trip. So whoever wins, it's gotta be somewhere cool, man. I don't wanna go to frickin' Ohio. Sorry, Ohio. Like, I've been through there. There are some pretty parts. Let's say we don't want somebody to win in Illinois. The goal is to deliver one of every badass tool that Greg and I love, use, and you guys watch us use all the time here on the channel. And we're gonna try to hand deliver those to one lucky winner to celebrate, you know, just the journey, the 1 million followers, subscribers, whatever. And then I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna find somebody to help me do all this, because shooting and editing video while you're actually, you know, building barns and stuff, it's a lot of work. And who knows, maybe once we hit that 1 million, we'll find somebody and we'll get even more awesome content out there. So if you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and do that, because A, you don't wanna miss the awesome content, but B, you wanna make sure you stick around and get in on this giveaway. We're gonna deliver some cool tools. Cool. Hey, look at that. You can see the laser. That tells me I'm pretty good, right where I wanted to be. And this is all ready for some subfloor. And then we'll build the first set of steps up into here. Actually, no, we're gonna build the set of steps going up first. Then we're gonna build our wall that separates the two. There's gonna be a stud wall that'll be drywalled, and it's going to have like a slanted rail, just to keep it nice and open, but also solid. You gotta remember there's gonna be kids running around, and that'll be a nice solid way to do it. And then we'll come and we'll finish this staircase out. But I gotta get out of here for the night, so I'm gonna come back, my clothes will be changed, and we'll keep going on this staircase. Yo, I'm halfway there. Wait, what's that song? Oh, we're halfway there. Yeah, living on a prayer. Yep, well done, buddy. Now you may not ask yourself, why are you cutting these pieces down into 4-footers instead of just running a full sheet up here? Well, because the way the I-joister ran, actually, I don't know if you can read it over here on the sheet. It has arrows and it says strength axis this direction. Now what that means is not all sheets are made to be as strong one direction as the other. You always want to run your sheathing perpendicular to your joist or rafters if possible, and that's typically when it's going to be the strongest. All right, so to figure out my stringer, what I'm gonna do is I know I've got 5'3" rise. That's the distance from this subfloor to the second story subfloor. And I've got 6 1.5 run. So that's the distance I need to travel. So what I like to do is I like to figure out this right here. This is gonna come into play later, and the diagonal dimension. So what I just figured out was if I've got my staircase, if I were to take the diagonal dimension here, the angle of my stringer is going to be the 39.57 degrees. I know I'm going to have 8 steps, so if I take 6 foot 1.5 inches and I divide that by a total of this is actually going to be 7 because my 8th step is the top, that's 10.5. So what that means is this dimension here is 10.5, so that works out pretty good for me. Let's see, if I go ahead and do 5'3" and I divide that by 8 total steps, I've got 7 5/8. One thing I always like to do here is I'm gonna take the 7 5/8 and I'm gonna multiply that by 8. And what you notice is I just got 5'1". Remember I was 5'3". So that means that if I actually do 7 5/8, I'm gonna grow by 1/4 of an inch. So typically I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna change this to 7 9/16 just to be safe, because sometimes when you're putting materials together, things grow a lot easier than they shrink. So that's why I'm gonna do that, and that will be this dimension here, and this will be 10.5. So now I can go ahead and cut my stringers and get them built. All right, so when cutting my stringers, I'm gonna use this tool here. This is a framing square. This is actually the Martinez, and don't ask me, he's probably not gonna make them anytime soon. But good Lord, I'm so glad that he did make them for just a short period, and I was able to get one because they are very slick for this sort of thing. You've all seen the stair knobs. For stairs, it's not as awesome as when you're doing rafters, because when you set these to a certain dimension, it basically takes all the guesswork out of it. You can set it up for a 412 pitch in about an instant. But you can't do that with stairs. You have to actually set your edges to where you want them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a nice, perfect straight edge instead of a piece of lumber, and I'm gonna get my, my stair knobs to 7 9/16 and 10.5. Okay, so what I did was I set these stair knobs so that when I put my square up against my lumber and move it around, this little triangle that I'm creating is the 7 9/16 rise and the 10.5 inch run. So this is very important. It's going to make your job more accurate and a lot easier. First, we're gonna go ahead and get our first mark. So I'm just gonna come over here on the very end, get myself a nice mark here, a nice triangle. So this is probably overkill, but do you remember I had the dimension of the diagonal? I'm going to use that. So this is 7 15/16. So I can go, or 12 15/16. I'm gonna go 7'6" 9/16. It's just a check to make sure that I didn't grow or shrink. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and line these up. And if I wanted to check midstream, and guys, you don't have to do this. You don't have to go this crazy. I'm just showing you the process. So if you're new at this, you can double check your work, make sure that you are, doing this accurately. A lot of people have problems with making stairs. So that 12 15/16 number, if I take that and multiply it by 3, I've got 38 13/16, which means this mark right here, which it is at 38 13/16. What I did was I took 12 15/16 times 3 to ensure that this stair is exactly where it should be. If you're not accurate and you can't read your square very good, this can grow just a little bit every time. And you know what? It took me a while to figure that out. It seems very basic, but I guarantee you a lot of people out there that when they make their stairs, they don't turn out as good as they hoped, because when they're laying them out, they get off incrementally, and it can make a big difference, especially if it's a big set of stairs. Are you going to the trailer by chance? Yeah. Can you grab the jigsaw? You're the man. Maybe I'll get a CNC machine so I can cut my stair stringers in the shop. Wouldn't that be pretty sweet? Something to consider is that my first step, you got to remember, is coming from the subfloor, and it is going up onto the first tread, which you need to know your dimension of your treads. So down here, if this is our floor that this is going to set on, our landing, this first step needs to equal 7 9/16. Imagine that your subfloor, or your tread, I should say, is going to be sitting on top of the stringer, which is 3/4 of an inch. So I need to actually cut this down 7 9/16 minus 3/4. And up top, the same thing goes. When I put that next tread on the top, it's going to be more than 7 9/16 with the rough framing, because I'll end up putting a tread, and that will make up 3/4 of an inch difference. So when you set it up on your stair opening, it will be 7 9/16 plus 3/4 to the top of this top stringer. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll kind of share that when we get into it. But regardless, I need to cut this bottom off, cut the top off, and we'll go give it a test. So this is my stringer template, and hopefully we can go put it in there and it sits right where it should be. So let's go check. See if the angles and everything all work out. So the important thing is I'm on my mark. The angle back here looks nice and tight. The angle down there looks good. And if I take my square here that has a bubble on it, I am looking good as well. That tells me that my angles, my math, it all worked out. The only thing that I need to do is add additional framing under here. And I knew that this was gonna be close. The stringer is barely gonna sit on this floor. And that is because just the way it worked out, I didn't want the stairs to go out too far into that opening, but these two staircases are equal. So that staircase dictated how this staircase was, unless I were to change it up, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted them to be the same. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but this is good. We're good. We're right where we want to be. All right, so now that I'm ready to cut my stringers, I'm actually going to try to do this as efficient as possible. So what I like to do is I get all my stringers. I've got 4 16-footers. I'll actually end up getting 8 stringers out of these because I'll get half and half. What I've done is I've checked the crown on all of them, and I've got the crown going down. And I'm just going to screw these together for now. Now, because I have these all screwed together, I can go ahead and get my beam saw, which cuts through a 6x6. So I will be able to cut through almost all, well, I'll be able to cut through most of everything. Pretty sweet, through 4 boards, no problem. Now, one thing I will say is that a lot of people are always intimidated by the beam saw, but I think the intimidation is what makes it kind of safe, because you're very intent on what you're doing. You're not just throwing it around. It weighs a lot, so you have to really work when using it. And so I've never, knock on wood, I've never had it kick back on me. I've never had a blade pinch and cause an issue. You just take it slow, because when you look at this thing, you know that you need to be careful, you need to take it slow, and things work out in your favor. This is the cut that's a little bit harder because it's on the other side of my blade, and you know, I don't want to cut too far. So it'd be nice if I had like a right blade saw, but I guess it is what it is. Not the first time I've done this. One thing I do when I'm going into this is once I get the blade close to my mark, I also try to eyeball it parallel to my last cut. That way I know that my saw is at least set up to go at the right angle. Important thing here is just making sure that your sawzall is as straight as possible, because the blade can move around a little bit, and then you're not as accurate. Greg, you use that beam saw for a little while and grab this, it feels literally like a toy. Really? I'm not even kidding you, dude. It feels so lightweight, it's not even funny. And that should give me 2 nice stringers. And if I really did my job right, they're all nice and lined up. So they should be identical to each other. Obviously I'm not holding them perfectly, or at least really freaking close. There's really no way to get perfect, obviously, unless I did go get a CNC for this, which, man, that'd be a lot of work, but it'd be pretty sweet. So I'll just go ahead and cut these all up, take them apart, and then we'll be ready to install the stairs. All right, so before I install the actual stringers and start putting my treads on, one thing I always like to do is imagine that this is gonna get drywalled, because that's what's gonna happen. Now, if I go ahead and install my stringers, my stairs, and screw them, nail them, whatever, right to the wall, the drywaller has to cut around all of my stairs. If I go to put trim up, I've got to cut around all of these stairs with my trim. That's totally doable, but you can also prevent it. Now, these are going to be a carpeted stair, so I've got it a little bit easier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a 2x12, that's going to be dropped down to this dimension. It's going to be below these angles here. So imagine it's going to be something like this, okay? And I'm going to install that against my wall, my studs. Then I'm going to install my stringers that my treads and risers are going to be installed on. And what that allows me to do is let my drywaller come in, put his 1/2-inch sheetrock with just one nice straight angle cut. It's a lot easier. And then I can slide a skirt board right in between here. So that'll equal about 1.25 inches. This is 1.5 inches. It's no big deal because I'm only going to be installing temporary treads for now. When the drywall gets installed, I can run my my skirt board, and then I can cut the finished treads, which will be the 3/4 Legacy subfloor on my tread and my riser, and that will be cut tighter out to the outside. Yes, there'll be a 1/4 inch gap behind here, but that doesn't really matter. All the structure will be there. They will be very solid stairs, and I'm going 16-inch on centers for my stringers. So what I'm doing here is making a notch in the back of the stringers, and this is going to help me attach this to the wall. So I'm going to cut a board. It's going to get installed like this. All the stringers are going to sit on here. I'm going to be able to screw them in. Then I will screw this into my wall. I just think it's a lot better than toe nailing. I don't like hangers on stairs, although you could still put a hanger onto this board very easily, which I might end up doing. But I just think this is, you know, another one of those things that it's not a whole lot of work to do. So we're just going to go ahead and do it. Go down a little, right there. Nice. There we go. We've got our permanent stringers, but our temporary treads. We've got some framing obviously to do, but just wanted to get that thrown up there. And now that that's on, I've got a spacer board that's going to go right outside here. I'll tuck it right up tight to those treads, and then I can build my wall that is in line with this corner, and that will go up and create our angled cap on our like stair railing. So we got the first flight of the stairs installed. We got the framing for the half wall. Just kind of temporary placed in there. And now that that is there, I can attach my stringers on each side of this alcove and finish with the last set of steps. So it's kind of nice to have that done. These are just temporary treads, so these will be replaced after maybe the drywall stage once we're ready to actually put finishes in. So those aren't glued, they're just screwed. And Greg's been working on all the blocking up here. So that kind of defines this space. That's the nice little extra balcony that we added. And then in here, we're just going through getting all the miscellaneous framing done, getting closets framed. The lumber pile's dwindling, and we're about ready to kind of finish up here, be done. All right, now as I start down here and installing these sets of stringers, I've got a couple things to consider, because up here, the second level set of stairs, those were dying on this landing that I built, that I use my laser, that is nice and straight. The problem is when I come down to the concrete, there could be a little bit of ups and downs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount a ledger. So I snapped myself a line up here where the top of my stringers is supposed to be. I notched out the back of these so that I can hopefully set these up here, get them all just kind of temporarily fastened, and then I can come out here at the bottom and I can check the first tread to be level, because if it's a high spot, my stringer could be sitting up and it be kind of like leaning backwards, or if it's low, it could be leaning forward. And I don't want there to be any you know, ups and downs. I want it to be nice and flat across all of them and consistent. All right, so I've got my level, and what I can do is just set this on the tops of my stringers, take a look at them. I mean, they're actually not that bad. I'm pretty happy. However, I suppose I should say, if you have an issue, when you put your straight edge or whatever on your stringers and one of them is noticeably higher, then you're gonna want to probably cut off some of this bottom, and never do too much at a time. Take it easy, take it slow, do a little bit at a time. You can always cut more, but you don't want to have to cut a whole new stringer if you don't have to. So that's my recommendation, but we got lucked out here and our concrete is pretty darn good. So let's go ahead, I'll pull these off. I'm gonna get notches out there for my ledger and then we'll get these installed. Now, when I said I was gonna be putting a ledger down, what I'm talking about is a 2x4 that's going to run on this edge right here, and I'm gonna notch out on these stringers so that it rests into it. That is gonna prevent it from sliding out. It's gonna give it a nice strong connection to both the ground, and when people are running up this thing, it's not gonna have a chance to move anywhere. So what I'm gonna do is put my straight edge at the face of my stringers, take my template board, and the reason I'm doing this instead of just cutting an 1.5 by 3.5 is because this one right here does not touch the ground. So if I go cut an 1.5 by 3.5, it's gonna be cut up too high. I can just template the height of it so that I know exactly where it needs to be. Now that we have this piece built, we can go ahead and take it in and should fit, should be good. So I forgot to tape the bottom of these boards where they're going to be in contact with concrete. You know, I didn't want to forget that, because what would piss me off or make me upset is when I go to edit this footage and then I see that I forgot it, and by then, not only is it probably too late, but, troll food gives people an opportunity. Everything looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and get it screwed off and then put treads on. Not that we're gonna keep these, but when you look at the end grain of your 2x12s, if you're gonna use those for your stairs, what you'll notice, if I get in here a little bit closer, you'll notice this looks like a rainbow. I don't know what you call it, but like U's, right? The letter U. Now, the way this grain is gonna work as it dries out is those rings are gonna wanna straighten out, which means that this board is gonna go from this, and it's gonna wanna flatten out. So what I always try to do is think about that when I lay my 2x, and we're gonna lay them smiling at us. So they're gonna smile and it's gonna cup down. I'd rather have that than like this and curling up on the edges. Nice. Why is it so much quieter up here? I said I was going to come up here. I was going to give you a high five. Nice. Stairs, done for now. We'll obviously have to come back. We'll have to do all the finished treads and risers later. But for now, it feels good to have that done. For the most part, not because the task is completed, but because I was getting tired of going up ladders, going up the scissor lift to get up here, to haul, materials. I should have done this at the beginning, but like I said, I just wanted to wait till the end because I knew that it was kind of like an invitation for everyone to go up there and, without safety railings and all this other stuff that we just didn't feel the necessity for Greg and I to do. And I know the comments are going to be like, you should always do that. Thank you. Stairs are done now, and we're going to go on to the next task. We just framed up the last wall framing for the most part. That was this pantry. Going to be flanked by a big brick stove, fireplace looking thing over here. This is where the fridge and stuff will be. And then you'll have this monster pantry to walk into. Greg says it's as big as his bedroom growing up. Huh, Greg? Pantry? Yeah. It's not much bigger than mine. I actually shared mine with 2 of my brothers.
Yeah, it's about that. Spot on. Wow.
Big enough for a room and a computer desk?
Yep. Have my bed, computer desk here. There's a chimney here.
Chimney?
Chimney, yeah.
You have a fireplace in your bedroom?
No.
Bow, bow, bow.
Then this would have been, probably stand what would have been the closet, and then the door.
And that, my friends, is R&R's version of MTV Cribs. Greg's bedroom edition. That was good.